A warm greeting. Today is Monday, October 20th, 2025. Meteorologist Ruben Garcia speaking. At the time of recording this video, it is 6 p.m. local time in the Greater Antilles, where we continue closely monitoring Invest 98, which is close to strengthening into a tropical cyclone, and during the next 48 hours, it is very likely that Tropical Storm Melissa will develop. During this afternoon, we have seen that the system continues showing signs of cyclonic organization, although for the moment the convection has decreased due to the trade winds accelerating in the area south of Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic, and currently, the low-level circulation center in the atmosphere is displaced to the west of the mid-level circulation center. This is normal in systems that are in the process of cyclonic organization, which, as they move through this area, face some difficulties achieving rapid organization. However, as it approaches Haiti and Jamaica, its forward motion will slow down, creating more favorable conditions for a tropical cyclone to finally develop between Tuesday and Wednesday. In fact, in the 2 p.m. tropical outlook, the National Hurricane Center increased development probabilities to 90% over the next 7 days and 70% over the next 48 hours. Unfortunately, we continue with a lot of uncertainty in the track forecast. Some models show a movement over Haiti and the Dominican Republic, while others show a more westward track, eventually threatening Jamaica and eastern Cuba. But unfortunately, either of these two tracks represents the worst-case scenario for different locations. For example, if the system maintains a path over Haiti or the Dominican Republic, it would represent the worst-case scenario for Haiti, the Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rico. Whereas if it maintains a slightly more westward track, it would represent the worst-case scenario for eastern Cuba and Jamaica. But unfortunately for the Dominican Republic and Haiti, either scenario would bring heavy rainfall across the region and a high potential for significant and potentially catastrophic flooding. This is because as the system moves south of Haiti and the Dominican Republic, the southerly wind flow will drag a lot of moisture from the Caribbean Sea, and with the topographic effects of the Dominican Republic and Haiti, it will produce excessive rainfall totals. In Puerto Rico's case, it will depend on which track the cyclone takes. If it moves northeastward into the Atlantic, then by the weekend a moist flow could become established, bringing heavy showers to Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. And we continue seeing this uncertainty in the ensemble members of the American model, although the vast majority this afternoon maintain that track over the Dominican Republic and Haiti, but we still have some members with a more westward motion, passing near or over Jamaica and eastern Cuba. For example, when we look at the ensemble members of the European model, some of them show that track over Haiti and the Dominican Republic. However, the majority maintain a much more westward movement and, in fact, develop a major hurricane in the western Caribbean Sea, which could threaten Jamaica, Cuba, and even some areas of Nicaragua and Honduras. In the case of Google's artificial intelligence model, many of them also show that track over the Dominican Republic and Haiti, while others show a westward motion that eventually strengthens the system into a powerful hurricane as it passes near or over Jamaica and Cuba. And the combination of these three model sets shows that this afternoon the highest probabilities of direct impact are for Haiti and also for areas of Jamaica. Even so, remember that all the Greater Antilles should continue to closely monitor the evolution of this disturbance. And if we look at the specialized track models, they have better consensus on eventually taking that north-northeastward path crossing over Haiti, but still some of them maintain that westward track, as shown by the European model. In terms of intensity, the models show a strong tropical storm or a Category 1 hurricane in about 72 hours, and in the medium to long term, a Category 1 or 2 hurricane, or in the worst-case scenario, even a major hurricane. Now, let's look at the latest runs of the global models. Let's start with the European model. In about 24 hours, it already has Tropical Storm Melissa developing south of Haiti. And notice how this model forecasts an extremely slow, almost stationary movement over the region until at least Saturday or Sunday, and eventually maintains a westward track as it strengthens into a Category 3 or 4 hurricane, potentially affecting Jamaica and eastern Cuba early next week. Of course, with this slow movement through the area, it would generate an extreme rainfall event affecting much of the Dominican Republic and Haiti, with rainfall totals over 200 millimeters during the next 5 days. This is equivalent to between 8 and 10 inches of rain. And if the European model's forecast verifies, tropical storm force winds could affect parts of western Haiti and perhaps hurricane force winds affecting Jamaica and eastern Cuba. On the other hand, we have the projection from the German model, which just came out a few minutes ago. In this run, it shows the system approaching areas of southern Haiti between Friday and Saturday, potentially as a Category 1 hurricane, with the right side of the circulation bringing a moist flow over the Dominican Republic and Haiti, producing rainfall totals between 10 and 15 inches for both countries. This is equivalent to between 200 and 300 millimeters. And regarding the wind, notice that tropical storm force winds could affect Haiti and the Dominican Republic, and some hurricane force winds where the circulation center makes landfall. In fact, this run of the German model is very interesting because it begins to shift toward the solution of the American model, which poses greater risk to the Dominican Republic and Haiti. In addition, the European artificial intelligence model continues projecting that the system should move over the Dominican Republic and Haiti and remain stationary through the weekend, also causing an extreme rainfall event for the Dominican Republic, with some 7-day rainfall maxima over 550 millimeters, or the equivalent of over 20 inches, and for areas of Puerto Rico between 6 and 8 inches. And finally, let's look at the latest run of the American model, which came out a few minutes ago. The GFS develops Tropical Storm Melissa in approximately 24 hours south of Haiti, and insists on strengthening the system into a Category 2 hurricane moving over the Dominican Republic, and, during the weekend, moving slowly north of Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic. Remember that this would be the worst-case scenario for Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic? First, because tropical storm or hurricane force winds would affect the Dominican Republic and Haiti, and by the weekend, some tropical storm force wind gusts could affect Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. In addition, under this scenario, notice the rainfall totals of over 300 to 400 millimeters, especially for the Dominican Republic, and for Puerto Rico, rainfall totals between 8 and 10 inches. So it is clear that everyone, from Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, Haiti, Eastern Cuba, and Jamaica, must continue paying close attention to the evolution of future tropical storm Melissa. But unfortunately, we still do not know exactly whether it will take a northeastward or westward path. Regardless of which of the two scenarios occurs, for the Dominican Republic and Haiti it seems inevitable that there will be an extreme rainfall event, so it is important that the population prepares for prolonged rainfall. Meanwhile, for Puerto Rico, Jamaica, and Eastern Cuba, everything will depend on which scenario ultimately unfolds. Of course, here at Hurricane Info I will continue monitoring closely to keep you informed. So I'll see you later, and so that you don't miss this content, I invite you to like this video. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and click the bell so you receive notifications when I record new videos. See you later. Goodbye.